Yeah. And we are live. Excellent.
I like this guy. I've been saying that much, but
I didn't have to live in either. I'm always amazed at how different everybody's workouts are.
Okay. So this is, make sure you don't hit the camera. This is Nutrition Lab number 10. And it's all about making it fast and making it right. We've gone over the 5 elements rule, we've gone over serving sizes, and while it all should be very simple, you get home or you get to the grocery store and you're like, this is hard. Why is this so hard to balance everything? And what we're going to go over first is how to buy ingredients, which looks a lot like looking at your nutrition label, what's important and how to look at it. We're going to go over that. And then I'm going to go over some examples. We're going to pull up different examples and analyze that way. After that, we're going to go through some tips for making food more quickly. We're going to go over some examples of things you can prep at home and how you'll find, I'm going to prove to you it's not as hard as you think it might be. I'm going to go over a lot of different meal delivery services and which ones might be a good fit for you. How to add healthy calories to meals. I'll send you the smoothie recipes. I have a whole chart of them. Some good examples for smoothies. We're going to talk about various vegetarian and protein sources in case you're trying to reduce the amount of animals that you eat. Okay, so whether you're eating a new food or buying a food you already know when you're looking at the nutrition label, really the first thing you'll look at is how many calories it has, and then how many servings and serving size, right? Usually when I buy something, I'm thinking about the entire package, and I take the number of servings and multiply that by the serving size. That tells me calories in the entire package unless I'm going to split it up, okay? Lots of food are smaller than you think it is, so check that first. Then you're going to look at carbs. There's different kind of carbs we learned from the 5 elements rule that we need to look at. Sugar, fiber, insoluble fiber, and starch. Which of these are on your nutrition label?
Sugar, fiber.
Sugar, and which fiber?
Top one.
Insoluble fiber, yes. So how do you find the amount of insoluble fiber? Well, it's not listed, right? So largely it's the amount, it's the kind of part of the food that wouldn't dissolve in water that is not a fat. So you think about putting broccoli into water, does it dissolve? Not really, it just kind of floats there on you. What about white bread? It kind of dissolves most of the way, right? So the more it dissolves, the more it's going to be soluble fiber, or insoluble fiber if it does less. With the exception of fats, because fats don't dissolve in water. Does that make sense to everybody? What about starch? How do you get starch? Does it even matter?
Depends what kind of starch.
Speak louder if they hear you.
huh?
Speak louder.
Starches end up going in a card?
Yeah, we're underneath carbs. So, let's back it up and talk.
Starch leaches out. Okay.
I don't know what you mean by leeches.
Well, for example, I'm thinking about like people who rinse rice after it's cooked or rinse pasta. that gummy stuff on the outside is
Some starches might, sure, but not all starches. So let's think about why this is important, okay? We're buying a food. I got a whole bunch of sample foods here, but let's say we're looking at something like a bread product, like Ezekiel bread or Dave's bread, right? We look at carbs. Let's say, for example, there's 25 carbs in it in a serving. I don't know how much there is, let's use that as an example, 25. And then we see the sugar. Sugar is 3 grams. And we check the fiber, it's 5 grams. And that has 25 grams of carbs. How much starch is in the food? Yeah, the difference.
Difference of what? The fiber?
so it gives you 17 grams of starch.
So, oh, wait. So 25 grams of carbs. I subtract out the 3 grams of sugar and then the 15 grams of fiber and then whatever's left.
Let's say 5 grams of fiber.
5 grams. So 8. Okay, so 17.
17 starch. Okay. Does that mean that there's 17 grams of net carbs?
Depends on marketing. No, it doesn't. They're all carbs.
What are net carbs? Anybody heard of net carbs?
Yeah.
They're not net carbs. 0 grams net carbs. I hear it all the time.
Total.
It's what's left.
What is it?
It's like what's left after, yeah, I don't know.
After you take everything else, that's
The insoluble fiber in the starch.
That's what you think.
I don't know, but I hope it's not bad because I believe that stuff on the label.
So,
That's a trick question.
not a trick question. And sugar minus soluble fiber. Okay. And in kind of lay language, there's enough fiber to counteract the sugar in the food is the idea. So if it has more sugar, you'd want more fiber to give you 0 net carbs.
Wait, so net carbs means the sugar and fiber balance out.
So where starch becomes important, right? So fiber is good, sugar's bad. Starch is a big piece of left in most foods. Is it good or bad? It depends on what type of carb it is. So that's where you look at the glycemic impact, right? We've been talking about this a lot. I've been hinting at it. We're gonna have a whole lesson on it. We're gonna go into lots of detail exactly what it is. But if the food is a higher glycemic starch food, right, then this number becomes important. If it's lower, it's not gonna be as important. Does that make sense? So a lot of times you look for these to balance out, well, how much is left of the starch and what kind of starch is it? If it's a natural unprocessed food, it's going to be lower in most cases. If it's more processed, it's going to be higher. Either that or you'll look it up on a table. Okay. When I'm looking at a label, right, I look at how many carbs are in the food, and then the next thing I do, right, because I know the sugar is bad, the fiber is good, I want to look here, I want to see where the carbs come from, right? And then I look over to the ingredients list and see what are the top carb sources on the food. They'll be listed in order. The first 2 or 3 are the most important, is most by weight, right? So if the starch is not a good starch or a high glycemic starch, I know this will become a high glycemic number. And that's really how you solve it, right? Is it, let's give some different examples, right? Maybe the first ingredient on this type of bread is white rice flour or rice flour. Does anybody think rice flour is high glycemic, medium, or low?
If it's white rice, it'd be high.
I'm not gonna say it's gonna say rice flour. What do we think?
I would say high.
I'm gonna guess.
White rice is low.
That's a pretty good way to go.
I
Yeah.
hear rice and,
So
and it's not.
rice
That must be high.
rice is medium to high. Rice flour is going to be white flour, white rice flour. When they turn it into a flour, does that raise the load or lower the load? So you're in something that's not already high and something higher. Yeah. So that one's maybe not so good. Right? If it's more of a natural grain like spelt flour, it's going to be a little bit lower. Right? And you look at the first 2 or 3 carb sources on your ingredients list to determine if this is a high impact or low impact starch. That will work for all your processed foods. Does that make sense? I'd like everybody to take out their phone and I want them to find a bread product nutrition label. I like to use Google Images, but any search engine you like is good. Grab the link for that and post it into Discord. We're going to analyze it together. We'll just pick a food that you want to know. Should we eat this? Is it going to be high glycemic or low? Pick something with a label. How do you share it? You can put it in Discord. Okay, Alex has got one. Alex picked whole grain brown rice. So I'm going to look at this label, right? We got 170 calories. And then where are the kind of calories? We have 1 gram of fat, 1.5 grams of fat. We have 3 grams of protein. Neither of those are really high, but the carbs is. 34 is a lot. Now I care a lot about what kind of carbs these are. I'm going to look at the ingredients. Yeah, click on the product, okay, it wasn't on.
Would you take a screenshot and upload the photo?
That's what I did.
So what I did is I went on Safari.
Is there an ingredients on this, Alex?
I thought what was there? It's just brown rice.
I think this is just rice. So, yes, we want to pick, yeah, this is just regular rice. So it's going to have the glycemic impact that brown rice has. Not a very helpful one. That is medium glycemic index. That one was easy. Please post in Nutrition Lab. You're going to confuse everybody else because we're not in weight loss chat. We're in Nutrition Lab and everybody's going to be very confused. Okay. All right. I need a link that has ingredients too, because you can't just look at the nutrition label. All right, Coach EJ's got coming to the rescue. All right. So what food is it, EJ?
It's a bread. It's
Some kind of bread? Dave's bread?
Whole wheat.
All right, so we got similar 1.5 grams of fat, 4 grams of protein, 21 grams. So here's your fiber, here's your sugar, 1 gram net carbs, right? Everybody got that? Added sugars, when they tell you that, they're distinguishing between natural sugars and sugars they're adding. And so now I want to see if the remaining carbs, which is 17, is good carbs for me or not so good. Okay, the first ingredient is organic whole wheat flour. It's still flour. And then water, which is 0, and then cane sugar. So we're basically eating whole grain flour for this product. Okay? So this one is not the most helpful. It's going to be high glycemic load, not as high as some foods, because whole grain flour might be better a little bit, but not a whole lot. This is whole grain bread. That's all that it is, with not that much added sugar. And most bread has more fat than that. We could look at what kind of fat it is. It's expressed canola oil, which is an industrial oil. This is whole grain bread, pretty much. You know, it is what it is. Send some more.
If you scroll up on his, EJ's and mine hit the same time,
Okay.
but this is better because it's
Sarah's got her brioche here.
yeah, because mine is a different day's bread.
Okay.
Which I eat.
Thin sliced.
So
It's not.
brioche,
It saves the.
you know, there's a little bit differences. You can see now we got unbleached white wheat flour, and we're gonna have a little bit more fat in a brioche, right? The carb analysis is largely the same. It's still ground flour. Pick some carbs that are not bread itself. Think of any food that you might buy, because most bread's gonna come out the same. It's gonna be high or very high.
That's the same thing.
Jen, I need to see an ingredient. All I got
It's
is
not. It's
nutrition.
red rice. It is just Lotus Foods red rice that you just cook.
And this is rice.
Yeah, but that's why I was like, that was the only thing I'd be curious about, because you said white rice, or
Okay.
the other rices are like higher glycemic.
Okay.
So
Let me
that was
give
what I
let me
was-
give you an example. We're gonna look up TGI Fridays. Wings. Because you might buy these in the supermarket.
Yeah, I could share that I can find it.
I'll pull up. Yeah, here's. I did give you the bread that I actually eat, but here's another one that I don't talk about.
Okay. And here's why I'm making a point of this, right? You're looking at this too literally, and the information that you're asking for is not helpful. You're like, tell me how good rice is from a nutrition label. It's as good as rice. If you send bread, you're gonna get the bread answer. But lots of foods have carbs. Most foods have carbs. Should you eat it when we're looking at a carb basis, right? Of course, I pick a low resolution image. Let me try another one. Let's try this one.
I just posted tater tots.
Okay, that's a little bit better choice.
Posting mozzarella sticks.
Okay. I tell you.
You're
There
gonna
we
end up
go.
with 48,000 carbs just on Discord alone.
I don't got any on that. Let me try.
I don't think.
What else?
Here, I'll send you.
Sarah's got some mozzarella sticks. We'll try those. Details. Nutrition facts. Oh, good. Okay, we got a nice good one Sarah sent us here. Okay, so when we're looking at mozzarella sticks, right? So we do our serving size is 3 sticks, 17 in the container. As soon as I see something like this, I'm concerned about calorie density. 3 sticks don't sound like a lot. 17 container, that's a lot of servings. That's 2 months for mozzarella sticks, so I'd be careful right off the bat. But we're looking at carbs, right? So we go down to carbs. There is 23 carbs in there. Protein is 12, and fat is 15. So we have 3 things to look at. We need to check where all the sources come from. So we're going to go down. First ingredient is low moisture part skim mozzarella cheese. That's going to be responsible for a good amount of the protein that's in there, as well as the fat. So is it good or bad? It's like milk. Okay, I think of milk analysis. Milk is an okay protein source. The fat is mostly saturated, and you can see that we have 5 grams of saturated fat coming from the cheese alone. Then we got cheese cultures, salts, and then enriched wheat flour. Okay, so bread. That's why it's called cheese, right? It's basically the same nutritional as flour. A is a protein isolate, so they're adding protein probably for like to make it more viscous. And then you have your soybean oil, which is your processed oil. And then some corn flour. So I wouldn't think of this as a high glycemic starch with some extra fats and cheese, right? Not the best food because they are also low index foods. These things don't have a lot of nutrition in them either. So this is empty calories, high density, high glycemic food. This food will not do well for losing weight for all those reasons. All right.
You know what?
It's got more protein in it than the tater
I
tots.
just answered my own questions, I think.
All right.
Because it's like,
What am I looking at? Power. Good. This is great. Jen sent me a great one. These are Power Waffles Blueberry. Okay. Maybe I want to buy these. Let's see. So I got 2 waffles, 76 grams total. They're little waffles, but okay. 240 calories. I'm looking at carbs. I got 25 grams, so that's a good amount. I got 12 grams of protein. I gotta look at fat. I gotta look at all 3. Okay. Before I do that, I want to go through the protein fat analysis. I just talked about carbs. We can get all 3 of them together, and then I'm going to come back to this page.
I just looked at those.
Protein analysis is pretty simple.
Too much sugar.
I look at just how many grams of protein it is. I don't look at the amino acid profile because I know I got to vary my proteins. When I'm looking at fat, though, I want to take into account, are they saturated, monounsaturated, poly? And if they're poly, is it omega-3 dominant or omega-6 dominant fats? Whether that's trans fats and industrial fats. So I'm going to break all those down when thinking, is this a good fat for me to eat, yes or no? And that brings us to Jen's Power Waffles. So, water is a zero food. We can skip over that one. So, whole grain wheat flour. This is a popular item tonight. We already know the answer to that. That's high glycemic, right? Canola oil.
That's the fat oil, right?
Canola oil or sunflower oil or soybean oil, depending on the plant that they're using. Soybean oil is not so good. Sunflower oil is not good because it's omega-6 dominant, so it's an omega-6 fat. It's not an industrial fat, but it's still not a fat that you want. Canola oil is a high toxin fat, so that's not a good product.
It's not eating those, but that's the first.
Whole grain oat flour is a little lower than wheat flour. Cane sugar, that's just sugar. Blueberries. Well, blueberries are good, but they're kind of low down on the list of ingredients. Whey protein concentrate, that's how they drive up this number. Whey concentrate is the inflammatory type of whey too. We want to isolate in our food if we can get it. All right. Look up some more waffles or pancake mix. We'll do another one. Jen picked the bad one.
Rashi makes one too. So does Van.
Oh, I got.
So does Great Value.
Both make.
I got one from. Well, go ahead and send me a link to it. All right. This is from Katie. She wants to do tater tots. Let's see if I can see everything.
I did a screenshot, and I
Okay.
couldn't, but I figured the bulk of the main ingredients.
I don't know how many calories are in here, but I could figure it out, right? How would I know? 8 times 9, 72 calories of fat. Protein is times 3, so I got 72 plus 6. And then I got my carbs, 14 times 4, 68, so something like 200 calories.
This says 130 calories per serving and is serving size is about 9 pieces.
9 pieces.
And 9 is a good amount.
So when we look at the major items of protein as well, we're mostly carbs and fat, right? So then we look at what it comes from. Well, it's white potatoes, right? White potatoes, high glycemic load. They're a good food when you're eating the skin. Processed, they're a little bit higher. And then you got your vegetable oil, soybean and cottonseed oil. I told you about cottonseed oil in the last lesson. Here it is in a product. Not a good choice for oils. And then salt, and then corn flour. Dextrose is a type of sugar. So basically, it's potatoes with unhealthy fats.
What was the multiplier for carbohydrates?
Same as protein, 4. 4.
But might be better than a baked potato with a whole bunch of sour cream and butter.
Sure, okay, Kodiak, that's a very popular brand that Sarah's sending me there.
This is that.
There's a link to the nutrition. No, MB, actually. Above quantity.
Above quantity.
See nutrition info.
You read the
Ah, thank you. Let's see if they give me the ingredients somewhere.
Very good.
Okay. So we have them 2 pieces, but that's okay. So same analysis. I got 200 calories. I got 3 4-inch pancakes, so I know my serving size. I got 3 grams of fat. It's not that much. 30 grams of carbs, that is a lot, so I need to see what kind of carbs they are. What's our net carbs? 5, right? 9 minus 4 is 5. 14 grams of protein. Protein's significant too, so I need to look at carbs and protein, determine whether or not I should eat this food. So, whole grain wheat flour, whole grain oat flour, cane sugar, and chocolate chips. It's bread. Okay, a little bit lower than regular bread because oat flour is a little bit lower, but it's basically bread. Okay. Well, where's all the protein come from? I'm sure they put some whey protein concentrate in
protein
there.
in there.
There it is.
Whey
right?
protein isolate.
So you can think of it as just eating a piece of bread with some protein, some cheap protein. That's the magic of advertising. They make it look really healthy. That's all that it is. It might not be a bad food post-workout. You get some protein and some carbs to digest it. You know, you need to have a little bit of sugar with it. But is this a high-endy food? Whole grain wheat flour? No. Oats have some nutrition in them. Sugar has none. Chocolate has none. Wheat gluten has none. Whey protein just has protein. No. Nothing in here of nutritional value. Low Andy index foods, kind of like empty calories, other than the protein that's in there.
Isolate, not the ground.
Isolate or concentrate has almost 0 index, but it does have protein, which is something you need. Does anybody have any questions on how to read a nutrition label?
When I look at a label, the first thing I look at is sugar. And if it's got more than about 3 grams of sugar, I go on.
I mean, normally I would look at sugar too. I tend to look at calories first, but you're gonna get to the same place. Okay, Jen's got me a different kind of waffle. Let's see if this one's any better.
Because the whey concentrate's high in omega-6, right?
No, it's got inflammatories in it, but not omega-6.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I couldn't get a good image of that at all. Not really.
Yeah, I can't really read it, unfortunately. I would assume it's probably similar to the other ones.
I buy these. I'll bring money.
Having Walmart link.
Does it have it in it?
Still there. Yeah, it does.
Oh, do you mind sharing that one? I didn't come across that one. I keep getting the same one that I
All right.
Sarah just found a better link, I think, for that.
You got a better one?
I sent it. You have to scroll from
Sorry.
All the way down here?
Yeah,
Okay.
there it is.
So 10 grams of protein, 20 grams of carbs, 13 grams of protein.
10 grams of fat. Yeah.
10 grams of fat. Okay, 210 calories total.
So what were you saying about the fat before? Because I missed it. Look at the source.
I want to see what kind of fats are in it. I'm going to look at that from the ingredients. There we go. So what do we got for ingredients on here? We got whole wheat flour, okay, high glycemic water, soy flour, that's from soybeans, okay, it's like any other bean flour, lower than other foods for sure. Canola oil is not a good oil. Egg whites are going to be a protein source and a leavening agent. Blueberries, organic whey protein concentrate, cane sugar, eggs. It's basically the same as all the other ones. The only difference is they put some basically bean flour or soy flour. That's going to give you a little bit more fiber. So I would expect on this one, we'd see a little bit higher fiber than some of the other ones. So 3, it's actually a little bit lower. I guess there's not that much in it. So we have 3 grams of net carbs.
Maybe it's a tiny certain.
Depends on how much they process it and things like that. So pretty much the same piece of bread with whey concentrate powder. All right, well, let's move on.
Can you anything? What about chickpea pasta?
Be careful how you.
Chickpea pasta is going to be mostly chickpeas, right? So it's going to be a legume. There's also going to have some, it's going to be mixed. Your bean pastas are going to have some semolina flour, some bean flour, and so it's kind of mixed. So some tips for faster meals. We're going to talk a little bit about meal delivery services. Bagged salads are a good way to go. Chopping vegetables takes a long time. Pre-cut fruit, I buy that a lot. Pre-seasoned proteins. You'll see a lot of supermarkets will sell already kind of marinated proteins. What do you need to check when you're buying something marinated?
Oil.
Sugar is probably the biggest one. Usually don't add too much oil because the product will have oil in it from the meat, but you're really making sure it still has no sugar. Shouldn't have any sugar in it. Use a shopping list. Will save a bunch of time in the supermarket. Super greens, if you don't have a vegetable with your meal, super greens are a good way to get the vegetable in quickly. And then frozen mixed veggies are also a very quick way to add vegetables to your meal. So a lot of people from the previous lesson we just did will struggle with making meals that fit the macros, right? We went over how to do it, servings, and it's still hard. And I just came up with a couple off the top of my head, and here are some examples. So one thing I'll make a lot, veggie roasts are an easy thing to make over the weekend. You buy a bunch of vegetables, you put a little bit of avocado oil on it, and you roast them, right? And then you can eat them all week. It's a great thing to make.
I was thinking roast, like a roast of meat.
Veggie roast, yeah.
Thick.
Chia pudding and lox is a food I'll eat a lot for breakfast. Chia pudding is like almond milk, chia seeds, and then maybe some Splenda or something like that. And lox is a healthy oil plus a protein source. I get it all in one. And then a lot of what I have listed here are recipes. Like, for example, egg roll in a bowl. Right? You can think of what egg rolls are. Well, ground pork's easy to buy. You can get I should say slaw. I was like slow. I'm slow.
And I was still
Slaw.
trying to figure out.
You can buy pre-made slaw, or you can make it yourself if you have lots of time. And then you get a soy sauce seasoning. There's very different recipes: garlic, sesame oil, ginger, apple cider vinegar, etc. Mix them together, and then you have basically egg rolls in a bowl, right? Where is it going to be your, calories to worry about? The kind of slaw you buy. Does it have mayonnaise in it and things like that? You can buy it with or without. And then I have, for example, this is like a taco, right? I have some slow cooked shredded chicken. You can use a slow cooker to make it. And then you put it in a lettuce wrap with salsa and avocado. I have beef stir fry, bean pasta, mushrooms, garlic, and broccoli. Okay, all simple foods. You can do like a burrito bowl like you get from Chipotle, right? So for the burrito bowl, I use pork tenderloin. You can buy whatever meat choice you like. And then I put some black beans, some cilantro, some red onions, and scallions. Mix them together. Now you got a bowl. You can make 4 of them for all week if you like. For another recipe, balsamic chicken is a very popular one. Some balsamic vinegar will have more or less sugar. Just be careful which one you're picking. And then you can make carrot spears, sweet potato fries, and asparagus. You have a bunch of different spears, right? Put them all together. Getting a little more creative, right? I have cheese crusted salmon. We can use nutritional yeast as a big source of the Parmesan. We can crush in some pecans to get our healthy fat. Parsley, Parmesan, and you vary how much panko you want, because panko is going to be high, right? So maybe less would be more healthy, more would taste better, and then we can put it with green beans. Another example I made the other day, you can make like a taco soup. There's lots of recipes, and taco soup is a pretty common thing to make, but I'll use ground beef beans, and because I don't want to use tortillas, I'll buy Quest chips, which are going to give me the crunch without all the unhealthy fat. Sometimes you can use the sauce, can be the healthy thing, right? Like pesto chicken. Pesto is made from olive oil, pine nuts, and an herb.
Cheese.
Basil.
Basil, is it?
Basil.
Okay. You just blend them together. Those are all healthy things. You mix it with some chicken and some blistered tomatoes. All healthy foods, right? Just be careful how much pesto, because it's high calories. Ceviche is great food to make. You can make it with tilapia and just add some salsa. Teriyaki chicken is something that's easy to make too. You can make it with broccoli, peppers, and green beans. Teriyaki, you can buy sugar-free versions of it, or you can make it yourself. It's nothing but soy sauce, water, garlic, cornstarch, and honey. Honey, you can replace it with any other sweetener that you like to get a sugar-free version of it. I have another recipe, for example, butternut squash soup. Very easy to make. You basically just cook down the butternut squash, and then you can add turkey to it and some pine nuts, and then you have a balanced food. Does that kind of make sense, everybody? These examples, they all, when you start to break them down, they all kind of look very similar, right? What do you think, EJ?
Mine was trying to get the nutrients to equal out.
Yeah, let's just use the last one for example. The butternut squash portion, that's going to be your carb mostly, right? So you make this big pot of this, right? And then you're going to give yourself 2 ladles or 3 if you're bigger, right? Whatever serving size. Well, how do I balance it out? Well, how much turkey do I add? Well, I need to add a certain amount of protein based on the carbs, right? To get my block to balance. Same thing with the pine nuts that I'm going to add, or walnuts, or whatever other nuts I want to add to it, right? I know I have mostly a carb, so I'm going to add a related amount of turkey and nuts so that my meal balances to what I'm looking for it to do. Does that make sense? Yeah, when you're preparing it. If you're not preparing it, it's very hard to balance it. meal delivery services. There's lots of different kinds. I don't recommend you try to diet without using at least one. Okay? Why is that? Because I don't got that kind of time. And where we live, food prices are ridiculously expensive. Most meal delivery services are regionally based. They're not based on the city that you're in, you know, so the prices are pretty close for us. If you live in a poorer part of the area, then maybe it's better, right? But yeah, we're gonna pay a lot here, so I use them. So there's the chop, measure, cook, and serve ones. They take about a half hour to make with preparation. I listed 3 there: Daily Harvest, Purple Carrot, and Hello Fresh. The differences between the brands are largely going to be how creative the recipes are, how expensive they are. It's kind of the other big piece, and how much variation. A lot of them will have certain styles to them. Like Hello Fresh, for example, is basically American food, and everything will taste pretty good because it's all natural ingredients. Hello Fresh might give you a bunch of sour cream or other type things, but you'll see it because there are the ingredients in there. So maybe you don't add the whole bag of cheese that they gave you, right? And cut some of the food. You'll see the ingredients that are not good, reduce them. They'll tell you it's 800 calories. Okay, where are these calories coming from? Oh, you know, half a cup of sour cream I gotta add. Well, let's reduce that down so I don't have bad calories in there. Purple Carrot is really good if you're low on vegetables because it's all vegetarian based. Some of their meals though will be not enough protein, so I might need to add a quick protein source to that. You know, that's where I can use my beef jerky or my Glocks or whatever I might want to bump up the protein, or just some protein powder if I want it. And then there's the new kit from refrigerated models of meal delivery services. I listed some up here: Territory, Hungry Root, Freshly, Factor 75, and Nutri Muscle Meals. Freshly and Territory foods are pretty similar. They're main competitors. I find with these companies they are inconsistent with production because food tends to be inconsistent and chefs are. So I don't recommend them if you're sensitive about changes from day to day. Some of the meal recipes tend to be a lot better than others. Hungry Root is basically a root-based food, so they'll have like carrots and parsnips as your grain. Factor 75 I haven't used personally, but it's another fresh foods type delivery one. And then you'll find Nutri Muscle Meals I pulled up. That's a local company. A lot of these will be local delivery. A lot of them have trouble scaling to national levels. You'll find local ones. They come up all the time. People do it for a few years, decide it's too much work and close. But new ones come up all the time. And you know, prices for meals like this tend to be in the $8 to $12 per meal range. So it's pretty comparable with what you might pay making it yourself. The only Thaw and Nuke company that I use or that I know about, though there's plenty of them in the supermarket, right? There, how many meals, right? Banquet and all these other brands. None of them are good that I've seen. MegaFit I use is pretty good. It comes frozen and then you thaw it out. I like them a lot. They're not that expensive. They don't add anything that you shouldn't add to the food. It even has some seasoning in it. A lot of the healthy ones will have no seasoning in it either. Theirs is okay. You can cook it from frozen. It won't taste that good. I thaw it out. They don't have a ton of variation, but a couple of their meals are good. They're going to be $8 to $13 per meal, you know, plus delivery. I think if you order enough, you get it together. But then there are, you know, Wegmans and Whole Foods got onto this idea as well. They have prepared meals. I think Whole Foods is currently doing like a build your own. You see, you know, you can take from different ones.
I worked in that department.
You worked, okay.
Yeah.
Mostly I found that they're choosing a little higher calorie foods. So a lot of them I won't buy because there'll be sauces and stuff built into them.
They're also big servings.
Yeah. There are the Scoop, Stir, and Enjoy ones. Right, Kachava, Huel, and Ample are probably the leading ones. Of the three, I think Kachava is the best. It's the most expensive by a big margin per serving. But when I say most expensive, it's like $3.50 per serving versus like $2. Still way cheaper than any meal you'll get. They're powdered drinks. They're not as healthy as real food, but they're still a good choice if you don't have time to make breakfast. You get most of your nutrition that way. And then there's scoop, stir, and nuke models, like your overnight oats. KOH is another brand of that. Huel has a whole line of food that way, where you just basically, scoop it in, you add your water to it, and you nuke it. I recommend, if you do this model, that you buy yourself these microwave lid containers, because they always explode on you, which is really annoying. The microwave containers have a lid and a steam vent, so it won't explode. I'd pick one for doing this because sometimes you just don't got time to prepare everything. These last a long time. You don't feel like making anything. You order Domino's, that's a bad choice, or anywhere else. You can add this, and then you still got your meal, and you haven't derailed your diet, and now you're not starving, making worse choices at night. Questions about meal delivery services? If you're not using one, think about using one. It's too hard, it takes too much time to do it all the time. You can change how much you like. If you don't want to be concerned about having to use it in time, pick a thaw and nuke service, keep it in your freezer. When you're like, tomorrow I'm going to be busy, you put it into the refrigerator, it'll be refrigerated, and then you can cook it.
I used, it wasn't Megafit, I've used several, and the thaw and nuke just seemed like a very expensive TV dinner. And
It is.
And after a while, I gave up on that, and I used one that was all organic vegetables, and you just had to assemble it and cook. I mean,
Okay.
it came already cut up and everything. The problem was that by the time you're done using the 48 pans that you have to do and all that, it's just,
It's less time than it would be if you bought the raw ingredients.
it's a pain, and so I found out I was just using the ingredients to make my own stuff, and I was like, you know what? So now I just buy it already chopped up at the grocery store.
You can do that too. You can buy pre-chopped food, mirepoix, and all that kind of stuff. Doing it all from scratch all the time,
It's a pain.
it takes a lot of time. Okay, so let's say you're buying a meal or you cook one and you realize your meals are not balanced. How can I add protein to a meal? What are some ideas? You can add cottage cheese, certainly.
There are a handful of, a quarter cup of nuts.
Nuts won't give you much protein, it'll give you mostly fat. Beans are going to be mostly starch. Those are good answers to different questions. I'm still on protein.
Some tuna.
Eggs are going to be mostly fat.
White eggs.
White eggs will be good. Need a lot of them. Roast beef, yeah, deli sliced, sure.
Tuna,
What else?
chicken.
Tuna fish in a can would be good if you can eat that without adding oil to it, which I can't, but some people can.
Put enough lemon on it.
Okay, sure, as long as it works for you. What else? Yeah, spam, I wouldn't go with that
Peanut
one.
butter.
Peanut butter is mostly fat. What else we got?
My go-to is a Quest bar.
Well, there's certainly other kinds of meats you can buy other than roast beef. You can buy turkey and chicken and things like that for sure. You can use protein powder if your meal is a little low. What about increasing veggies? What are fast ways to do that if your meal doesn't have veggies in it?
Frozen.
Yeah, frozen veggies are a good choice. Okay. Sure.
Carrots.
Cruciferous trays, right? Pre-made, pre-cut. Spinach real quick, yeah.
Yeah,
Bag
spinach is
salads. Super greens, right? What about increasing starches? Sarah already gave you one. Beans, We don't really want to have canned beans because canned beans don't have much nutrition in them anymore because it gets pasteurized out. No self-respecting Mexican uses canned beans.
We do. In my house, we do.
But yeah, it's still good because there's a lot of starch in that, and there's a lot of fiber, right? So beans are still healthy. Better to have them
Vegetarian
dry.
refried beans are nice to have.
What else? How else can I add starches? My carbs are low on the food.
Potato.
Potatoes are probably not a convenient way to add. So, I'm in a rush. I realize my food's low on starch. Hold on. I'm going to turn on the oven. I'm going to chop up some sweet potatoes and cook them for 45. It's not going to happen.
Get yourself some baby potatoes, poke them, and throw them in the microwave for 3 minutes.
Even boiling them is going to take a while. It's not something you can just add.
Other than that, fruit.
They're to cook with the microwave.
Yeah, you could add some carrots to them. They're starches. What else? How can we increase starches if we don't have any?
Rice. Lentils.
A lot of those are going to require you to prepare them. Lentils and rice. They're going to take a while to. Rapini beans, sure. You can have a bag of rapini beans. I have them in my fridge.
I never think about adding the starch.
Depends on what you're low at, right?
Already there. I don't have to worry about starch.
I worry about getting enough protein.
So
Have some pretzels. Pretzel rounds that my favorite.
It's like frozen.
now, if we're thinking about, if our carbs are low, you could. Dave's bread, sure. If our carbs are low, certainly you can add fruit, right? Vegetarian protein sources. What kind of protein sources are vegetarians eat? What have you guys seen? What's that? Tofu. Yeah, tofu is same nutrition as beans, right? So it's mixed carbs and protein. So it's basically, because it comes from soy, right? So they're basically beans. So beans are a vegetarian protein source. What else?
What's the vegetable protein?
Yogurt, if they're willing to eat meat, you have all your dairy. Will work for vegetarians, but not all vegetarians will eat dairy.
What's the meat replacement that begins with S? It's a grain. I can't remember.
Soy?
No, I mean there's a product like a meat replacement called begins with S.
So tempa's a big one that people
Which?
will eat. Tempa.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Other vegetarian, you have all your synthetic plant-based proteins now, like Beyond Burger, Impossible Burgers, and things like that. Cauliflower could be. It's not good. That's more of like a meat substitute. Same thing with mushrooms. They're going to you'd use it there, but from a nutritional point of view, it's going to be a little bit lower. A lot of vegetarians do need to supplement with a protein source, like vegetarian protein,
Jackfruit.
because their their carbs tend to be too high, because you're looking mostly at plant-based products. Any questions? What are questions we got? So EJ, you mentioned you were having a little trouble with your
Seitan.
meals. Seitan? Yeah,
So
seitan.
that's what I was doing.
Yeah. Seitan tastes like chicken? So you're having some trouble with the meals balancing.
Right, so I'll get I guess it's getting the percentages correct
You
in
can get it
the,
at
40, 30, 30. So I will have chicken.
Right?
It's, getting the chicken and then add tomatoes, cucumbers.
Let's get everybody to help EJ. Let's apply this. So EJ said he's having a little trouble. He's making a chicken dish, right? So is it going to be white meat chicken, dark meat, skin on?
Chicken breast.
Chicken breast. Okay, so we got chicken breast. What else is in your meal?
And then there'll be cucumbers, tomatoes,
Okay, so we got cucumbers and tomatoes.
Green beans and onions.
Beans and onions, okay, that's going to give you a lot more starches. The beans will be enough. You'll have to eat a whole lot of vegetables to get your carbs up by itself. You need a starch, otherwise you'll be eating vegetables for the whole night. Sometimes I do that. Sometimes if I'm starving, I'll have like 2 huge bowls of vegetables because I'm starving. But so
there's-
that gives you a starch. What are we missing?
Oils. So, or fat, cottage cheese.
Cottage cheese is mostly
Let's
protein.
see. It is, yeah.
What kind of fat would we want to add to that meal?
Nuts.
Yeah, nuts.
Walnuts.
Yeah, walnuts, pecans.
And then it's trying to get it all that it's equal.
Well, just how many nuts you need to add. That's all. That's really all it comes down to, right? You think about, you have your however much protein that you want to have from your chicken, whether it's 20 grams, 30 grams, 40 grams, right? And then you know your ratio, right? So if it's 30 grams, let's say it's 20 grams of protein, right? We're gonna know we need how many grams of carbs. Three grams carbs, 2 grams protein, 1 gram fat. We went over this, right? In the way beyond macros. 3, 2, 1 rule. Okay. 20 grams of protein, that means we need 30 grams of carbs, 10 grams of fat. 3, 2, 1.
All right. 3 is carbs.
3 is carbs. And that's a loose, it won't match out exactly, but it's gonna get you very close.
3 carbs, 2 protein. That's great.
Okay, the 40-30-30 rule applies to calories, not grams. You can go from calories to grams through a conversion factor. But you'll be thinking about calories, right? Because here's the way to look at it. So you buy your chicken, okay? Your chicken has, how many calories in a serving of chicken, Jen?
Sorry?
Serving a chicken, how many calories?
Is that 120?
A little more.
Grams, serving.
150, yeah, it depends on the chicken, right? 150 calories, okay. That's mostly protein, right? That's 30%. So how many calories of carbs do we need? We need 40%, right? So a little bit more. We need like 200 calories of carbs, right? So 200 calories of carbs, half a cup of brown rice with the chicken and rice, that makes sense, right? And then we need how many calories of nuts, right? For your 40-30-30 rule, right? So it's gonna be 30, what do we need 150 calories worth of fat, right? How many nuts is that gonna be? It's about a serving of nuts.
Quarter cup. Yeah.
Not even. It's gonna be like 1/8 of a cup. Depends on the nuts.
This is it.
Some nuts are higher than the 1/8 of a
An
cup.
ounce of cashews is like 170.
Cashews are a little bit higher than other ones. Macadamia is a little higher. So that's how you do it. You just add to your meal with, you know, when you pick, it gets harder when you pick multi macro foods. Like if they have 2 things in them, then you wind up adding
say
something and then the other one goes up,
And
right?
that's what I'm running into is like yogurt will have carbs and protein,
Mhm.
and it throws everything off.
When I
And then-
start with a multi-food, I usually start with that one. I don't use that as an add food. I build it around the multi. Like if I do something like salmon is fat and protein, right? It's got almost equal amounts depending on the kind of salmon, right? So I build my meal around that. I'll add the veggies to that. I'll add the starches to that to get it to balance out rather than using that as the food to add. Otherwise, you're kind of chasing your tail trying to get it to balance. That makes sense? Other questions? Any meals anybody's having trouble balancing?
Oh, no. I'm still on the day plan. I haven't gotten the final plan.
Day plan will work, it's just not quite as effective as doing it at a meal level.
Yeah.
Because of things like absorption, glycemic impact, and things like that. and depending on how far off you are, right? If you're getting close to meal level, that's better. If you're eating all your carbs for dinner, that's not going to work out.
No, yeah, I don't. Well, no, sometimes I don't.
6 beers and some pretzels. It's probably not going
You
to.
need to eat some beer nuts. and
That
put
sounds
protein
sounds
in there.
delicious, but I don't think it's going to work.
They're high in wheat.
All right. The next 2 lessons are some of the most technical and requested. We're going to tackle glycemic index, glycemic load, some concepts like that. And then we're also going to do carb cycling and how that works. And we're going to do intermittent fasting and all the different variations. I think those are the next lessons. Those are things that to get you an extra 10 or 15% return on what you're doing. You have to do the basics right though, so that's why they're advanced topics. Yes?
How do you know what macros? How do you figure out?
How do you figure out what your macros should be?
Was that spreadsheet?
That calculator.
Yeah.
That we, yeah.
Yeah, I have a calculator.
Okay.
Let me pull it up for us.
Yeah. But you have to.
Okay. So, do you know what your basal metabolic rate is? Say it again.
1586.
1586.
It's from the embody.
Mine's not that much.
Okay, so then your macros, if you're looking to lose weight, are you looking to lose 1 pound per week or 2 pounds?
Go with 2.
2. You need 147 grams of carbs, 111 grams of protein, 49 grams of fat.
Repeat.
147 carbs, 111 protein, 49 grams fat. Looking for basal metabolic rate?
Yeah, where was it?
It's on the right side towards the bottom.
Yours is 1298.
Oh no, because I added the
Anybody else?
yeah, because I added the.
I know.
I had, for some reason, when I tried to download it, I can't go in and
Yes.
it's in
Oh, you have to save a copy.
You have to save a
download it
copy.
and then save
I
a
don't let
copy.
anybody edit my formulas and break the sheet. You have to save a copy.
So if I say,
So yeah, so downloading it just saves his copy to your
Just do
Dropbox.
save as.
There's an
See.
option that's just made a copy.
see,
Yeah, you just make a copy. You can edit that.
Could you imagine if I had this public and I let everybody edit it? It would be ruined in 5 seconds. Yes, make your own copy and then edit it.
see, I'm having a problem with Dropbox.
What
My Dropbox is almost
EJ,
full.
just tell me
It's
what
almost
your
stuff.
what's your basal metabolic rate?
It was 19.
Okay, 1 pound a week. 182 carbs, 136 protein. Carbs. 82, 30. Let me tell you something about losing 2 pounds per week. You will be starving. Okay, yeah. You will definitely be starving doing 2 pounds a week. It's not a lot of food.
But, so that's if you put your basal that index in there. If you're
BMI.
trying to be like BMI in there, you're trying to lose weight. If you're trying to gain muscle mass, you have to increase that number, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so
I'd
that's
first
what I-
use your maintenance one, and then, like you can see right here, for EJ,
I need to save my ass.
right? We have his maintenance numbers, right? So maintenance, 300 grams, 227, 101. So if he eats that, he should stay about the same, right? I would go on maintenance first to see if you can still build muscle on that. If you're stalling and it's not going up at all, I would move it up a little bit by,
But that means
So-
more than your basal metabolic index.
For what?
Calories.
these numbers are based off total daily energy expenditure.
So can you put 1298 is my
Now, there is an assumption here based on the number of exercise that you're doing, right? That's going to change.
Mine will fluctuate anywhere between 2 to 4, depending on.
Well, then you may need to change it for the week, right? If you do things, if you're not consistent, you have to change the eating to make it work. And the numbers you see here, 200, 150, 70, are kind of like a standard number. Where technically Jen's a standard sized person as far as its standard diets go, and hence that's why you see in those nice round numbers.
So, what did you say?
And there you see right up here your 2,000 calories. That's your USDA number. That's how Jen's numbers came up, which is why those numbers are, you know, expect you to exercise 5 times a week, and that's your maintenance calories.
So you think I should use my BMI before adding the whatever that value was, 400, 500? I forget what thing says to add. Depending on
It doesn't tell you, right? So normally I'll tell people if they want to lose weight, you know, just looking at the basal metabolic rate, depending on how high that is, you might add 400 to 600 calories. Small people closer to 400, bigger people close to 600, right? So if we added 400 calories, that would be at 1,800. 1,800 would be your number for losing 1 pound per month.
Because it's 400 on top of your 1,200.
Yeah, so, okay, so it was about.
You always got to add to get your total energy.
Okay.
Other questions? Everybody's tired. How are you all?
And hungry.
And hungry. Talking about food for an hour. All right.
Thank God there's something already I can cook.
Can we get our mom to go complimentary cheese sticks?
Yeah, seriously, Sarah. When do those come?
Huh?
I can bring you tater tots.
When did I? What did I reach?